Draft, your weekly foreign policy show that gives you the gory details of geopolitics with hopefully some laughs along the way. It's the
Seena.
Leftover Show.
Hello. Thanksgiving leftovers, baby.
I hope you had a Thanksgiving with minimal you're a racist, you're a socialist conversations at the table. I'm Seena Ghaznavi, Travis Irvine. We're here to talk and make global news bearable.
Absolutely. And make your holidays a little more bearable, too.
That's true. Foreignreportshow.com, theforeignreportlpn@gmail.com. Sign up for our newsletter on our website, please. It's free for now, but who knows what could happen. We have some interesting stuff to talk about today. It's the holidays. So we're pre-recording
this. This is it. Now it's official.
We're pre-recording this a little bit. We're going to talk about some of this Epstein stuff.
Yeah, leftovers on Epstein. And the thing is, with leftovers on the Epstein stuff that we haven't gotten to yet, it's very spicy.
Yeah.
If Uncle John was really on one this Thanksgiving, you're going to be prepared to handle him by Christmas.
Obviously, we're against pedos.
Yeah. Pedophilia bad.
But how young how young?
As Megyn Kelly said.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that clip.
If you're just into the barely legal.
If Megyn Kelly's at your Thanksgiving, get her out of there.
Get her out
That's like the one person.
No, don't get her out of there.
I would kick her out.
That is not the American way, Travis.
I'd kick her out.
You got to engage. I want her at the table saying, so, Megan, Aunt Megan, Auntie Meg.
This is my 8-year-old.
Can you tell me what age?
This is my 15-year-old.
Yeah, which one is it more pedo-esque?
Ugh, gosh. Well, the nice thing
I would love to, by the way, can I just say,
sure.
We'll end the show with how to talk at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But here's a little preview. I used to always bring up 9/11 at Thanksgiving.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
As in it was bad?
Or
as in like never forget?
We'll talk about the end of the show.
Because I was going to say, I'm wearing Cleveland Browns gear because I find with Trump people, MAGA people, Republicans, conservatives, I just turn it back to sports.
100%.
I had to do that the other week in Santa Monica. I was like, I couldn't find.
What do you mean in Santa Monica?
You want to find Trump supporters in L.A.?
Yeah.
It's Beverly Hills.
Yes.
Orange County, which is not L.A.
Yes.
Or Santa Monica, apparently.
Santa Monica. What were you doing there?
I was seeing my buddy's comedy show.
Oh, boy.
And then, it turns into a thing.
It was a MAGA rally you were at?
No, it's just one guy. He had a MAGA rally in his brain permanently, and you can't change their minds.
You can't do that.
And it was actually, we were talking Epstein. I had to explain very basic,
pedophilia.
No, not that. why it's bad and why these victims all couldn't come out to talk.
Oh.
The legal side of it. And he was like, well, why don't they just come out and say all the names? I'm like, oh, buddy. I tried to give him a very serious answer, but he was not in the zone. So we went back to sports.
There you go. That'll do it. And I'm glad you did that. See, learn from Travis, everybody.
We're trying, folks. We're trying.
Epstein is always in the news.
Yeah.
I find it troubling to talk about.
Sure.
Because just at a high level, I don't trust all the stuff that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Because of all the Russiagate stuff, which I didn't trust even when Russiagate was happening.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing I believed was the P stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That was the most unbelievable part for me.
That was what I just wanted to hold on to that.
Yeah,
I was I hope, please.
Right.
I'm going to hold on to that one. Okay. The rest, I was like, he can't possibly collude. This is not a man that he has not colluded with anyone.
Right. And
in his life.
As we've said in the show, you just
compliment.
Talk him up. Yeah. Compliment him. There's no collusion, just complimenting. But it is interesting because I'm going to jump into some of this Epstein stuff, right?
Because the House Intelligence Committee, is it the House Intelligence, has released a Google Drive link of all these emails.
It's pretty bonkers stuff, right? Where we're getting to, but
and these aren't the Epstein files per se.
This is not what the DOJ has. There's so much stuff.
Yeah.
So this is the meat. We get into the turkey. This is the leftovers. Let's get into it.
Okay, yeah, give it to me.
All right. Okay. So for anyone, get up to speed, right? If anyone didn't discuss it with their relatives this Thanksgiving, we'll prepare you here for the holiday season coming up.
I hope you're listening to this in the morning so that by leftover lunchtime, you can say, hey, did you know?
Yeah, or if you got more relatives to see on Saturday, Sunday, sometimes you spread out your Thanksgivings. But the House resolution passed the House unanimously.
Yeah.
427-1. There is a guy. It is funny to look at the guy who voted no on the releasing the Epstein files. Because, Trump did, like we talked about last week, Trump did the about face and said, you know what, Republicans, go ahead and vote for this.
Yeah.
So, and Democrats are already on board, and you had 4 Republicans, but then all Republicans except this guy, Clay Higgins out of Texas.
Yeah, what was his deal?
It just sounds like a name like a guy would be like, yeah, pedophiles, I don't know. Yeah. I'm Clay Higgins. Like, what a name. But he was the only one to vote against it in the House. And then, like we said last week, it went to the Senate.
Do you think he voted against it and then he was like, hey, wait a minute, I thought we were all voting against this thing.
Right. He's just like, my button didn't work. My name's Clay Higgins, so I actually don't know much about technology. But it went to the Senate.
A man, we have no idea.
Oh, no, you can look him up.
Is he like this?
Yeah, he's from Texas, and his name's Clay Higgins. Yo, I got 2 people I'm not letting into my Thanksgiving or holidays. Megyn Kelly, Clay Higgins.
Auntie Meg and Uncle Clay.
I look forward to Clay Higgins going on Megyn Kelly's show to explain this vote. Yeah. Anyway, and like we said, it went to the Senate and it passed there. Mike Johnson, not prepared for that. He thought they were going to amend some things, but instead it just flew through the Senate. Trump signed it. Goes to his desk. He signed it. He's like, I have nothing to hide. Epstein, never knew him, actually. He's doing that whole thing. But, beyond the pedo stuff that we're talking about, there's some actual foreign policy implications with all this Epstein stuff. And this comes from a site that we've talked about before, Drop Site News. Very good journalists, investigative journalists who have kind of come together. Jeremy Scahill.
Ryan
Grimm. And it turns out, for anyone who didn't think that a guy who's a multimillionaire and had his own island and, and did all these things and knew all these powerful billionaires, it turns out he was actually very involved in foreign policy.
Oh.
I know. And we've had little droplets of that, right? Conspiratorial. Again, we're a conspiratorial comedy network.
This is where we live.
We get to kind of dabble in this area.
It's in the air
in
this building.
It's in the water. It's in the Celsius for sure.
That's for sure.
But we've had these little droplets kind of sprinkle about. Tucker Carlson has said, Epstein was Mossad, right? Involved with Israeli intelligence. Charlie Kirk was even saying before he died that the Epstein stuff is related to Israel and everything like that. And these emails, it turns out, thanks to the folks at Drop Site News, they're going through the emails so we don't have to.
Right.
And we're talking about it so you don't have to go through these, as you're saying, Google Drives and just...
But to be clear, so the House has been releasing these documents, but this is like the Epstein files per se from the DOJ. That's what everyone voted on. That has yet to come out.
That is yet to come.
Got
it. So this is stuff that's already out there.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
See, this is confusing to me.
It is confusing, and it's confusing to that MAGA guy in Santa Monica. But I had to talk. That's why I had to switch to football with him.
Okay, exactly.
You and I are about to jump into this.
Okay, let's get it.
The meat and potatoes leftovers. Everyone, get
tell
your
me about
Tupperware
the
ready.
Mossad thing, because I'm a little skeptical.
Well, and this is the thing, right? It's not like straight up like Mossad agent. Like we don't have that like smoking gun yet.
Right.
But what we do have is emails like this, and this dropped at the end of September. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of catch you up. Right, these are leftovers that are deep in the fridge. We're pulling them out. They're still good though.
Still good.
Open the Tupperware, give them a sniff. Still relevant.
Okay. Yeah.
Epstein held a broker.
You almost ate really old food from my fridge when you house that for
I'm
me.
aware, but kimchi keeps forever. Jeffrey Epstein uses political network and financial resources to help broker a security cooperation agreement between the governments of Israel and Mongolia.
Mongolia?
This dropped at the end of September from Drop Site News. This is like the beginning. All right, I'm
first time
this is your first
Mongolia has been mentioned on this show.
And it was because of Epstein. Isn't that bonkers? Yeah, exactly. This is according to a trove of leaked emails from former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And basically this is kind of, again, this is the tip of the iceberg. This is our first little morsel of leftovers here. It was well known that Epstein had personal ties to Israel, including to senior political officials like Barak and Ehud Olmert. And, he donated to different organizations with Israeli ties. But Epstein's activities in Mongolia show for the first time that he facilitated a deal that led to a security agreement between Israel and then also other nations. The messages spanning from 2013 to 2016. Jeffrey Epstein doing this stuff. Crazy. daily correspondences. Their conversations address political and business strategies. Epstein coordinated meetings for Barak and other members of his elite circles. And then it keeps on going to show that the rise of Israel's cyber surveillance and weapons industry, it's been one of the most significant geopolitical developments in the past 2 decades, right? But they're creating such tools that even Mongolia was like, yeah, we're going to want some of those.
Mongolia?
I know. So this is, again, the story of Israel's 2017 security agreement with Mongolia is the first window into the true nature and scope of Epstein's operation. Okay, so that's your first little leftover. You want to check out the full story? Go to Dropsite News.
Dropsite News. Okay.
All right. I'm giving you a little taste. That was the end of September that dropped. You want a little bit more?
I do want a little bit more.
If you have more questions about Mongolia, I recommend you go to Dropsite News.
Yeah, I was not going to ask about Mongolia. You're not the in-house Mongolian expert.
No, I am just going off what the good folks at Dropsite News are saying. And that, again, that was your first taste at the end of September. And then they don't drop another big old meaty hunk of leftovers till the end of October. So what else you got?
I am wondering about this whole Mossad thing.
And again, I'm not even calling him Mossad. He's communicating with the prime ministers.
Yes, and I think a lot of people communicate. I feel like I'm Alan Dershowitz right now. I feel like I'm Jeffrey Epstein's.
You want to play his lawyer?
I will. Fine, I'll be his lawyer.
All right. How do you explain this?
What? He's just into the young ones. Okay. They're not that young.
Right. No, but we're not even talking about that now. I'm talking about a man who has no foreign policy credentials. He's not. Who hired him? Who gave him the? That's what. Don't you need a badge? Don't you need a badge to get into the UN?
How many charities and nonprofits has Jeffrey Epstein helped out over the years?
Oh, that's a good question, Mr. Dershowitz. Well, okay. So remember how you said you kept talking about the Mossad?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein and the Mossad is their next. Their next story. So it does. Yeah. I guess you communicate with the prime minister. You eventually start communicating with the Mossad. What are you gonna do? Right. So now this article is called "How the Sex Trafficker Epstein, obviously, helped Israel build a back channel to Russia amid the Syrian Civil War."
Okay, so
now we're dabbling around where you were saying.
He just put people on a group chat.
Yeah.
He just made a Signal chat.
I mean, but that's what's funny. It's not even Signal. It's email. It's Gmail. It's his JEE vacation at Gmail.
Oh, so Your Honor. So Epstein. I can't CC the Prime Minister of Israel and all of a sudden I'm in Mossad?
Yeah, pretty much. He had a back channel, and but back channel is it's Gmail. So anyway, he was trying to back channel between Israel and the Kremlin.
You can't call Gmail a back channel.
Go on. He was trying, basically, during the Syrian Civil War, according to more leaked emails from Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. The trove of emails, this time exchanged at the height of the Syrian Civil War between 2013 and 2016, reveal Epstein's successful efforts to secure a private meeting between Barak, not Barack Obama, again, this is Barak from Israel, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. So he's communicating with Putin's people via email.
Putin's got a lot of people, though. Could be anybody.
It could be anybody.
It could be maybe anybody. Well, that's not conclusive. Okay.
Right.
Easy.
But we're tiptoeing towards where you were saying, PP tape, okay? We're tiptoeing. We're getting there. One leftover, one new Tupperware dish at a time.
Okay.
What's this one? Old eggplant. Let's try it out.
Let's give it a shot.
This was to discuss a Russian brokered end to the conflict in Syria, including winning Russian support for a negotiated removal of then president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad. So Epstein was an invaluable resource for Israel's former prime minister, which probably goes to the billionaire network and the sex trafficking and whatnot. But either way, some reason Epstein's a trusted asset of this former prime minister of Israel. And so they just would share intelligence, defense minister documents. I mean, this is throughout Barak's entire prime ministership.
He was sharing it with the
Epstein.
And Epstein was sending it to Russia?
Yeah. He was doing all these coordinating with back channels.
Gmail.
And then sometimes
which is the word.
Gmail.
It's not a back channel.
Yeah. So, for example, in 2014, Epstein wrote to Barak, With civil unrest exploding in Ukraine, Syria, Somalia, Libya, and the desperation of those in power, isn't this a perfect for you? And then Barack replied, you're right in a way, but not simple to transform it into a cash flow. That's the subject for Saturday. So these guys would literally, you're talking about.
So Barack, Ehud Barak said that.
Yeah, of Israel, yes. Well, and Epstein was writing to him about everything that's happening in the world. They were talking about how to get rich off of it. Isn't that wild? So they sought to pressure the Obama administration to either intervene directly in the Syrian war or make concessions to the Kremlin in exchange for Assad's graceful exit. In their exchanges, Epstein expressed his frustration at the Obama administration's failures to contain Tehran. I mean, again,
so far,
Epstein is talking foreign policy here.
So far.
In emails.
A little unethical? Sure. Illegal? I don't know yet.
Right.
I'd take it to a jury.
Yeah, okay. But so it keeps going. After their failed attempt to remove Assad, Barak and Epstein sought to leverage the Russian channel again in 2015 as Barak pushed for U.S. strikes on Iran, of course, because he's Israel prime minister.
Sure.
So they've been wanting to do it for a while. And then rejected Obama's nuclear deal framework. So it's just so bonkers. Again, this one dropped at the end of October. Dropsite News, to their credit, they did hit up Ehud Barak for a comment, but he did not respond.
They sent an email to his Gmail account.
I think you just grabbed whatever email's in there, and he did not respond. But it's just so, again, this is a glimpse. This is what I think is so interesting about this Epstein stuff. It's like, yes, we're talking the pedo stuff and the billionaires, and then it's like, no, this is like, was the full title of the Austin Powers movie?
The Spy Who Shagged Me.
No, International Man of Mystery.
Yes.
And that's kind of what Epstein is.
Well, without all the comedy.
Yeah, well, it wasn't fun. No catchphrases.
No fun.
Anyway, there's even more stuff here on Dropsite News. Again, I highly recommend checking it out, dropsitenews.com. Jeffrey Epstein helped Israel sell a surveillance state to Cote d'Ivoire. Israel spy. This is actually where it gets into your Mossad claims and Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk. But an Israeli spy, this one just dropped here earlier in November. The Israeli spy stayed for weeks at a time with Jeffrey Epstein in his house in Manhattan.
Well, he maybe didn't know he was a spy. Because if he was a good spy, he didn't know that he was a spy. He was just a friend.
Hey,
is Jeffrey Epstein not allowed to have friends that are Israeli?
I mean, it's just so. This is the fourth piece from Drop Sites.
By the way, I think I'm a pretty good lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein right now.
Oh, yeah. You're muddying the waters right up. Even I'm just like, I don't know. You're right. It's his friend. Yeah. No, he lived at
Epstein.
Epstein.
This jury is not convicting. I'll tell you that much.
Right.
And then we get Megyn Kelly on the stand to be a character witness and be like, he just was into the.
And then Clay Higgins just like, I didn't know what I was voting for. Either way, this is the fourth piece from Dropsite's News. Ongoing series on Epstein's role in brokering intelligence deals for Israel. And, Mongolia, Cote d'Ivoire. I mean, who knew? Cote d'Ivoire in there. And then, yes, he knowingly had a spy staying with him.
Was it a spy? Did he know he was a spy?
Yes, absolutely.
How did you know?
Because it's in Dropsite News.
I don't know if he knew. Jeffrey Epstein didn't know.
Oh, you're saying, okay. Well, you're playing the lawyer
Jeffrey
now.
Epstein, the New York financier?
Right. I've never met him.
No.
And then this one just dropped.
There's more?
Yeah, last week. This is the last one I just want to highlight because this one's so bonkers. Modi from India?
Yes.
Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein was pressing Steve Bannon to meet with the Indian prime minister shortly before, literally right before Epstein died. So you remember
when he was in prison?
Yeah, you remember Steve Bannon in the first Trump administration had national security clearance.
Yeah.
And that was because of that. He was in the administration, but also like Bannon, there's emails that Michael Wolff has been talking about too, is like, basically that Steve Bannon knew how terrifying Epstein was to Trump, right? So Epstein would write Steve Bannon like Trump sweats at night when he thinks of me and what I've got on him, right? So there's that element of it. But then, then there's just, he was telling him like, yeah, you should meet with Modi and things like that. So he's making foreign policy decisions for Israel, but then also for the United States. I want to play a clip real quick. I just want to highlight all the journalists here at Dropsite News in terms of what they're covering. And this is one of those where it's just they are literally just talking about the Israeli spies who are working with Epstein, and then the whole big goal is just to create a cyber security network that they could then share with other countries. And it's like it's a security thing, but then Israel's also just kind of spying on you.
Oh, this reminds me of the octopus murders.
I don't know what that is.
That was a lot of like a backdoor intelligence, operation, and then people died. Anyways, let's listen to the clip you've got here. And who's this speaking? Hold on.
Oh, so this is another one of their fantastic journalists, Murtaza Hussein. Okay. Also with Dropsite News, and so he's kind of explaining he and Ryan Grimm
sleeping at Jeffrey Epstein's house for weeks at a time. What do we know about this guy?
So this gentleman was named Yoni Koren. He was Ehud Barak's chief of staff for many years. He was a very well-known person in the Israeli security establishment. He'd taken part in many operations. He was like a very storied figure and decorated figure in the Israeli security establishment. He worked closely with Barak for many, many years. And as per the correspondence that we see in Barak's inbox, he was working with Epstein and Barak to help source technology from Israeli cyber weapon companies as part of their ongoing work to promote these companies around the world. And in promoting them, also subsequently promote diplomatic deals between Israel and foreign countries. So basically, there was like this interesting sort of operation they had going where they would accomplish multiple things at the same time. They would go to foreign countries which had security problems and say, hey, Barak would go through Epstein's invitation, usually most of the time. And he would say, hey, we have a way of solving these problems with you. Like I'm Ehud Barak. I was the Israeli defense minister. I was a very well-known prime minister and security official for many years. I can connect you with these technology firms that can help build up a surveillance apparatus for you. We've reported some of the details of those apparatuses they built in places like Cote d'Ivoire. And, we can solve your security problem. If you have an uprising or if you have a disloyalty in the army or something like that, we can help you build a full-fledged turnkey security package with the help of these Israeli firms. And these firms were led by people who were also Israeli intelligence agents. So it was kind of like a full circle. And then the firms would come into the country and then they would set up their security system, set up their surveillance system. And then a few years later, most of the time or very often, the Israeli government would come and sign a formal security agreement with that country to solidify the pact that had begun with these private sector security cooperation. And this cooperation, which was never really, of course, mentioned when they signed the final deal, is that it was initially, put together or facilitated by Jeffrey Epstein. And Jeffrey Epstein helped Barak do this in Mongolia. He helped do it in Cote d'Ivoire. He helped do it in some other countries because we're going to do some more stories about this. We already have many scheduled stories
News going to keep dropping news.
Countries where this happened. And, he was very integral into making these connections happen. He was a Backchannel operator, extremely powerful, influential one. And he helped build security states created by Israel, in many, many different countries around the world. And, one can imagine when a foreign country is building a surveillance apparatus, the back doors that they could build into that, their own access, unbeknownst to the end user that they may have.
Here's your security.
We've created a back door. They all come to light. And we think about it in terms of China, and rightly so a lot of the time. But, obviously the same issue arises with Israel, too. What did they build in these systems? And, how did Jeffrey Epstein, why was he so invested in helping him do this? That's also, I think, a legitimate question.
Boom. All right. So there you go. Straight from the
I didn't know we were against capitalism here, Travis. I didn't know we were against a man just trying to make a buck. Make a buck.
Yeah.
He's technically, Jeffrey Epstein, a small business owner.
Yeah.
He's a small business owner. He had a friend stay at
his place. I believe his assets when he died were $600 million plus an island.
He didn't have that many employees, though.
Right. Well,
it's a small business.
Yeah, he had, once he was paying.
Yeah, he didn't really pay them. Yeah, they were under the
So anyway, that is a glimpse into Dropsite News' great coverage of these leaked emails from the former Israeli prime minister and his relationship with Epstein. So again, it's just opening this other piece of the whole geopolitical puzzle. So, for the holidays, pedophilia bad. I would also argue Backchannel, and we're going to get to some weapons stuff, which is not Epstein, but obviously we're going to cover. But to set up a whole security apparatus where it's like the Israelis are like, we're going to help you with this, but then we're just going to use it to spy on you later.
Yeah, I think this is a very common thing that happens geopolitically between all these countries, and there's like this problem where trust gets eroded. And did my best Dershowitz here the whole time, but I think the point.
Give me the honest Seena.
Yeah, the point that I guess I'm trying to make overall is there's so much information coming out, and we can get spun up very quickly into the conclusions that we think are being made. Mm-hmm. But we should just take everything with a grain of salt because everyone was sure about Russia. Right. But at the end of the day, the answer
and that is what I'm going to close with. So
was very simple
thoughts.
To just influence Trump by complimenting him. And I'm not saying all this stuff is wrong or anything like that. I'm just saying I don't want to get burned again. I don't want other people to get burned again.
Sure.
I know that Jeffrey Epstein was a vile man, and he used money to bring people into his orbit.
Yeah.
And like he was able to exert influence over a lot of people in power. But we also should be, just like we say, like be an adult, hold the complexity of everything that's happening, consume the information, like talk about it with your friends and your family, but also know that more is going to come out and we're going to learn more. So be open to learning more. Don't get locked into one view of how all this thing is happening.
Yes, be open to grabbing a Tupperware from the back, and when you're house sitting for Seena, and it's an old thing, and it still smells good, feel free to give it a whiff and give it a nibble.
And then if you realize, hey, this is actually too old, I should not be eating it, toss it out.
Yeah, so that's what we'll be doing. Grain of salt. That's a good tip for Thanksgiving weekend, but also the holidays in general.
Not too much salt. Don't oversalt the mashed potatoes.
Don't oversalt it. Just one grain of salt. But I want to close with Russia real quick because you mentioned it, and everything we just talked about, right? Being an intelligence asset, as Jeffrey Epstein, it's looking like he was. Like, again, I'm taking it with a grain of salt.
He could be an asset, though, for, like, the CIA.
Are you doing Dershowitz or Seena anymore? I can't tell who's who over here.
Here's what I think he was an asset for multiple intelligence agencies.
Right.
Because he's a ruthless capitalist.
And you can see he's working with all kinds of folks.
He is probably, like, I'm sure the Mongolian Secret Service has had him on the payroll.
That's crazy to me.
You know what I mean?
The great Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
I'm emailing with Genghis Khan.
Fantastic man.
The 40th generation. But, so just close with Russia because you brought it up with Russiagate. This is where, and this is what... I'm just going to highlight a couple things. Tom Hartman, great radio host. You know Tom Hartman. He wrote an article called "Did Epstein's Knowledge of Trump Become Putin's Most Dangerous Weapon Against Ukraine?" And this comes from, again, another Epstein email. And some people are saying, do we have a smoking gun yet? We don't know. But Epstein pressed information to Putin and Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov on how to extort Trump during his first term. He wrote to an associate, right? So again, this is not even back channels. This is emails to associates. Quote, "I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight on Trump by talking to me." Again, very simple, but people are saying that this could be what is leading to the thing that Trump is actually afraid of, and that is his relationship with Epstein let Epstein have something on Trump that then he gave to Russia, per your point, good capitalist.
Yeah.
And then Russia gets to use it. This comes from, remember Lev Parnas?
Yeah.
From the first impeachment trial? Lev Parnas has also written a very long piece on his Substack about the real reason Trump is terrified of the Epstein files. And he also alludes to the fact that possibly Epstein gave something to Putin that then Putin was able to hold over Trump. And he holds over Trump till this day. And you see it, and this is according to Lev Parnas.
I know.
I know.
So annoying.
Because you got burned.
I don't want to be here.
But keep
I don't want to be in this position.
But keep in mind, you were burned the first time because there wasn't that smoking gun. Could this be the smoking gun?
I know.
Lev Parnas, Tom Hartman, and the good folks at Dropside News are hinting at yes, but take it with a grain of salt, and we will just keep everyone in the loop in the spirit of the holidays.
I view that thing that Epstein said there. If you want insight, I could see him getting on the phone and being like, all you got to do is compliment that dumbass, and he'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks for the chat.
He's an idiot. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
Put on the skeptic's hat. I've got my Browns hat on, and I'm skeptical at any time I put on my Browns gear. Will they win today? Oh, no, they won't. I get burned all the time.
I still believe the P-tips. All right.
But maybe that's it.
Maybe that.
Not so much a smoking gun as a stinky gun. No thanks.
Right. Well,
but yeah,
folks,
it is interesting. We will keep everyone in the loop.
Let's take a quick break.
This is why we're doing leftovers.
Leftovers.
Put some ketchup on it. Tastes better.
Man. And we're recording this Friday the 21st, so that's a week before your leftovers on Thanksgiving. So if anything changes, if smoking guns do come out, if stinky guns come out, we will, we'll post about it or something. All right. For Travis, I'm Seena. This is the Foreign Report. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Foreign Report. I'm Seena Ghaznavi, Travis Irvine. I gotta just shake off all that Epstein ick.
Okay.
And talk about something more awful, almost.
Okay, cool.
We talked about this on the show, talk about leftovers.
Yeah.
When Trump came in and basically realigned all the global alliances,
right,
pushed NATO to pay more for their defense spending.
Right, which is something Putin wanted.
It created this global arms race. And it's focused, of course, on Europe because that's NATO, basically, right?
Right.
But where is everyone going to get all these weapons and all the materials? It's going to create a global supply chain for arms.
And who makes all the arms around here?
I don't know. Here are my arms. T-Sips. Okay. So there's Al Jazeera has a little thing. There's a breakdown of the numbers that are now happening with this escalation in a global arms race.
And this is good stuff. I like Al Jazeera America, Drop Site News. They're going through this stuff so we don't have to, and then we're reading it so y'all don't have to.
Then we're reading it and regurgitating it to you.
But this is what we do here, baby. Yeah. We're news aggregation.
There we go. Here we go.
And this is important, too. This feels like another leftovers story, right?
Yes.
Because it's been percolating. It's been sitting in the back of the fridge all year since Trump came to office. And, when you and our producers even put this to talk about it on the show today, I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Epstein's building a cybersecurity network all over, before he died, all over the world. And then, oh, good. Don't worry. Now everyone's getting armed.
And by the way to push back against the dangers of an escalating global arms race would be alliances, which is something we're pulling out of completely.
Right.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, let's take a quick look at the numbers on global military spending. Countries spent a combined $2.7 trillion in 2024. That's an increase of 9.4% from the year before.
Be used for healthcare.
Compare that to the money the UN says is needed to end extreme poverty worldwide. Just $300 billion, a fraction.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Wait a minute. Holy shit. Wait.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad.
Did they just... What?
They just said 300 for the amount that... Elon Musk is worth. You could solve all poverty with $300 billion. All poverty with $300 billion. And instead, these assholes are buying weapons to kill everyone. Hey, why feed everybody and house them and give them health care when you can just kill them all? It'll cost 5 times as much, if not more.
Oh, my God.
To the hike in global military spending with a rise of 17% in 2024. Israel's spending jumped by 65% to hit $46.5 billion. That's the steepest annual increase since 1967.
Something happening?
Since 1967, was there a war?
Continued to up its defense budget by more than 7% last year. Let's bring in our guest from Camden, New Jersey. Michael Boyle is...
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, my God.
That's the most British-looking man I've ever seen.
You guys got to look. I'm not going to play the clip of this man. It's a long interview, but that... Sweet God.
That's the most British man I've ever seen.
I think a plane is landing on that man's head right now.
All right. Okay. All right. Hey, this man's a nice guy. He's an expert.
Oh, God.
That's bonkers, though.
That is.
So how many trillion? 2.4, 2.7 trillion. All right, get him off the screen.
Sorry. Okay.
Get him off the screen. 2.7 trillion? I missed the dot.
I think it was 2.3. 2.3, yeah.
Whatever it was, and then 300 billion could solve global poverty.
That's where we're at right now with all this stuff. And
things are escalating even more since Trump got into office.
The thing that's been happening since World War II is everyone in the global rules-based order was like, listen, we need to throttle arms. We need to all have an agreement. We'll help with security here and there, like maritime security, right? Like at sea, right? If everyone has to have battleships, then you're going to have oceans filled with battles.
Right.
Right?
Right. It's like a crowded bar where everyone's got a loaded gun.
Yes.
What could go wrong? By the way, that's legal in Ohio. Can't wait to be home for the holidays.
But it said China increased by 7%.
Yeah, which even that's like, okay. Because they're the only one after the U.S. who's spending.
But do you know how much bigger our spending
is?
Oh,
yeah. No, the U.S. spends, what?
3x more than China.
We spend more than the next 13 countries combined on weapons, which is bonkers. That's like a neighborhood squirt gun fight.
It's exactly.
And there's like a kid, they're like a Super Soaker 100.
Yeah.
As the kid's got, I got a Super Soaker 200. And then we show up in a fire truck.
Yeah.
Just like, fuck you, kids. It's not even water, it's gasoline. We peed in it. We're that kid.
But Trump is also threatening to restart the nuclear testing in response to Russia. So, because Russia has always been talking, since the start of the Ukraine war, he's been talking about using a tactical nuke. And so Trump is saying we should test nukes, which, by the way, when you test the nuke, it's poisonous. It's like not healthy anywhere to test it. Nukes are not healthy. There's a reason we have all these things. These nuclear facilities are like, buried and they have all the stuff around them.
Right. Yeah.
You don't just want to be tossing.
Test it out. Take it for a spin.
Oops, it spilled. Don't worry. It's okay. It's a test.
Yeah, right. Oh, Lord.
So then we have this thing where, and it's crazy, as opposed to being like, and this is one of the things that, capitalism created, albeit it like eroded the middle class in America and a lot of places around the world.
Yeah.
But what it did do was it used the dollar and money as a way of calming and avoiding war.
Soft power.
If we could use money to keep you from going to war, that's better. I mean, of course, the downside that I don't think a lot of people foresaw, or maybe they did it, they didn't care, and they were just glib about it, was that, workers were going to suffer because labor's moving all over the world, right, in globalization.
Sure.
But this means now when everyone's got missiles, you're going to have a world that's fundamentally more threatening.
It's like the tinderbox.
Yes.
But not the dating app. I'm talking about the gunpowder, where they keep all the gunpowder in the old days.
And I think it's also scary when a continent has to play catch up.
Right. And so you like Europe.
Yeah, they're rushing.
Right. Literally, they're rushing because of Russia.
Yes.
We're rushing because of the Russians.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
And so I don't know if that's a good thing. Also, the Italians only work 4 or 5 hours a day. It's going to take them a while, Like, what are we doing?
My lunch break.
Yeah, they're taking a
and
siesta.
the French.
The European way of working is way better.
Yeah.
But it's not like how we work in America.
No, we work way too hard for way too little. Small wages.
And I've brought this up on the show before, but my favorite video, and this is like kind of glib as well, so forgive me, but it was after Biden sent these destroyers to Israel, to the sea there, after October 7th, to kind of like say, I'm with Israel and all this stuff.
Sure, as you do.
And there's like a B-2.
Epstein's ghost probably brokered that deal.
Exactly. Backchannel over Gmail.
Right.
But a B-2 bomber is circling, and the overlay text on the video was Hamas about to find out why Americans don't have health care.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. Because honestly, we're talking about all this, and it's so interesting. It's like you just said, we make so many weapons.
Yeah.
And in the big, beautiful bill, thinking about the $300 billion that could cure global poverty, the big, beautiful bill that Trump and his people passed earlier this summer, where J.D. Vance was the deciding vote in the Senate, that actually increased military spending.
Yes.
It increased spending for ICE. And so even though these other countries are now, China's spending 7% more, NATO countries are spending 2% more on weapons, we're still spending more also on weapons. And we're not spending less just because they're spending more. We're still spending just as much, if not more.
And the cost, there's an affordability, and this is not just in New York City, but there's an affordability crisis across the country. Grocery prices are still up now at the highest they've ever been. Like, things are not coming down. He could have subsidized. If I was president, I would have subsidized so much food in this country and just given people a break.
Well, remember they cut all that. They cut the USAID food soft power.
Yeah.
Our American farmers would grow the food, they'd get the subsidies, they'd grow the food, and then would go overseas. We were feeding the world. And then that got cut.
And so I think, there are ways we could have lowered the prices on a variety of goods for people to make their lives better. We could have done a lot of things to make healthcare cheaper. We're not going to do that because they're going to vote on this next month, and they're not going to renew the subsidies. I could almost bet my life savings on it, which may have to go to pay
your healthcare now for your family. Yeah.
So I think that this is where we're at right now, and I think it's something to keep watching, because what you may see is as people rush to create arms, that means that Europe, lots of regulation. That means countries or maybe groups are going to be going to non-savory, maybe non-state actors to get weapons or to get material for weapons.
Yeah.
And that is going to prop up warlords, people that we don't like, whatever, and then things could escalate.
And it just reminded me of all these other places we've talked about in the world. Sudan, where everyone's getting armed by different sides. Russia's on one side, then jumping to the other side. Nigeria, all these. Then you got all these little countries that are like fighting with each other.
Yeah,
and let's just keep feeding them more arms. There's more arms flowing around the world now than ever before.
And the fact, also, I think that Europe is in an arms race. That also means that they're going to try to buy arms from Lockheed Martin. They're going to buy arms from American stuff as well. And so that's
because we're still producing them.
Yeah, and those don't boost the economy like it did in World War II.
Right. Oh, yeah. The great documentary, Why We Fight, not the early Frank Capra version, but the later version was so great. It illustrated that there is a defense plant in every single congressional district.
Yeah.
And you couldn't cut it because it was jobs.
Yep.
But then, like you just said, it's not the same anymore.
It's not.
I mean, who's buying this stuff? Well, it turns out everybody, but
we make the world buy our stuff now.
And instead, we could have, kept making food.
We're going to be covered in AI drones in the next 5 years.
Oh, that's right, because that's the new wave of weapons. Yeah. That's fun. This all reminds me, remember the old comedian Bill Hicks?
Of course.
Yeah, that great bit about they were showing, this is like way back during the first Gulf War. And they were showing weapons of like, this missile goes down like a mine shaft. And then Bill Hicks is like, couldn't we use that same technology to like deliver food to hungry people? It's like, there's a man and needs a banana. Smart fruit. We could.
I don't smoke 2 packs a day. I go through 2 lighters a day. So good. Right. So good.
Yeah. Before his time, as they say.
Yep. Okay, well, I just wanted to let everyone know
that's a meaty leftover.
Yeah, that's a meaty.
You're going to want to you open that one, Tupperware, you put it on a thing put in the oven.
You need gravy.
You're going to need a lot of gravy.
A lot of gravy.
And maybe even more than a grain of salt. Maybe like some peppers, paprika.
Yeah. Ooh, a little smoked paprika. I used all my smoked paprika on my ribs that I made a few weeks ago.
Really?
I need to get more.
Oh, well, I should come house sit for you. And I'll just eating paprika in your kitchen at 2 a.m.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how to talk to your relatives at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah, we just gave you a lot of good ammo.
And then, I'm going to talk about how I used to talk about 9/11. Anyways, we'll be right back. This is the Foreign Report. Welcome back to the Foreign Report. I'm Seena, Ghaznavi, Travis Irvine. I'm FPZT Seps.
In the house. Go Browns. Season's over. Season's over.
Trash can Browns. Mistake by the lake.
Over. Yeah. Well, again, growing up in Ohio, I grew up in the middle in Columbus, and we got the Buckeyes, and they're always good.
Sure.
National champs, like all the time. And then, but if you're in Columbus, you got 2 professional football teams that you could root for.
Okay.
Some people, if you're super East Ohio, root for the Steelers.
Yes.
Which is kind of
that's me. I'm Pittsburgh. I'm in Pittsburgh.
You're a Pittsburgh guy. If you're a West Ohio, you root for the Colts. The
Okay.
Indianapolis Colts. But usually it's the Browns or the Bengals. So when I got to college, I remember I'm from Columbus. Well, who's your pro football team? Who are you going to watch on Sunday? And I'm like, I didn't know there was football on Sunday, right? Saturdays was football days in Columbus, and they're like, there's the Browns and the Bengals. And I'm like, all right, which one's good? And they're like, neither of them. I got sucked into the Browns guys because they were more fun to party with, really.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, Cleveland knows how to party. When the Browns win, downtown Cleveland is the place to be.
That's the dog pound.
Yeah.
Listen, folks, Thanksgiving's tough. It is.
And that's why I talk about sports at Thanksgiving and the holidays.
Because
this is
easy.
This episode is Black Friday episode.
Yes.
So we're giving you a sale, a limited sale on how to talk to your conservative relatives this holiday season.
And sports, I think, is the easiest one.
Yeah. We're giving you this advice for free. Even.
This is free.
Right.
This is if you subscribe to the newsletter.
Yeah.
You'll get this for free. Listen, I think it's, you got to make a choice. Do you want to or not?
Right. Do you even broach politics? Sometimes they bring it up.
Yeah.
So that's a very good, that's your first line of offense defense.
Yeah.
Do I talk about it? Some of you, I see people in the comments, sound off in the comments too. But
yeah.
I know people are like, I'm going to my conservative relatives' holidays in Nebraska. I'm talking trans rights.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, bold stance.
And I think, is it worth it? Like, what is it worth to you to do that? And you got to reflect to yourself. Am I doing this for me? Am I doing this to change their mind? Am I doing this to change someone else at the table's mind?
Right. Maybe make another family member who's outspoken feel more comfortable.
Yeah. Or you want to make someone feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And you want to call someone out.
Yeah.
By the way, I've done every single one of these
holidays
things.
Is the place to do it. So what do you got? Because my family, pretty liberal, the immediate at least.
Yeah.
If you venture over to Aunt Terry's, maybe you don't bring up some things. But Aunt Terry isn't a conservative she's just very religious.
Okay.
And so that drew her into this Republican group think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Otherwise, she's a very sweet lady.
And that's what you can always,
And that's what we do talk about, how sweet she is.
Then you could be like, hey, these pedos are bad. And then you'd be like, hell, young.
It's like, you used to be a teacher. You know pedos are bad, right?
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of diversity in my family, and by issue. Because they're Iranian immigrants, my parents, they are liberal on some things and conservative on other things, pro-Trump on going after Iran, against Trump on almost everything else. And that's a very common thing in the Iranian diaspora, and you have a lot of this conflict.
Right, and you even talked about Persians here in L.A. and Beverly Hills.
Oh yeah, very, very different. Yeah. And then there's we grew up Muslim, we don't practice or anything anymore, but there's a lot of Israeli Persians or Jewish Persians, and they have a whole different thing. And then there's, Baha'i Persians. There's so many different parts of the culture, and it depends on who you're at the table with. Again, the religious reviews are all diverse, right? And it depends on that.
Sounds nice.
I would always, for a long time, try to find a way to bring up 9/11.
Okay, so this is your.
Well, because it's so awful to say.
Honestly, could you play offense for the Browns? Because you're already offending me.
It started when my brother brought home a girlfriend who said something around I haven't seen a lot of racism toward Middle Eastern people,
right?
West Asians, but I didn't know that.
Right.
And I just went, and it's Thanksgiving. I'm like,
this is in Pittsburgh or New York?
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I'm like, you don't think after 9/11 Muslims had it bad or anyone from the Middle East? She goes, I never know that happened. And then I was like,
oh my God, this is like the Mom Donnie versus JD Vance thing we talked about a few weeks ago. Yeah. I thought JD Vance wouldn't come up in this segment, and I was going to be thankful for that.
Yeah, we are thankful. No JD Vance this week.
Yeah, no big JD Vance news this week, but.
Well, by the way, he did say a thing where if I could just ask the American people for patience when it comes to the economy.
Oh, yeah, he sent you that clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some patience for you. The patients waiting in line for health care, Mr. Vance.
So, since then I'd be like, oh, it's like 9/11. And you just kind of bring it up, and then my mother, so pissed every time I do it. No. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And then, you do fun bits and stuff like that. My mom would try to, make me do the prayer or do she'd say,
oh, God.
You
squeezing it into the prayer?
Well, she'd be like, she'd say, okay, Seena, do a toast. Not a prayer. She'd say, do a toast.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what we would do.
Then,
just a thankful moment.
Yes, a thankful moment. Yeah. And so everyone would hold hands, and I'd just go, Allahu Akbar! And she'd start screaming at me.
Great bit. Oh,
it's fun.
I want to come to the Ghaznavi.
I just like stirring it up a little bit. But I talk about politics all the time.
Yeah.
I have gotten older and I have gotten more tired, and the time that I have with my parents is way more limited.
Sure.
And sometimes, honestly, like I don't got the juice to do that squeeze.
Well, Papa Celsius.
Yeah.
And then you just start yelling at him.
Exactly.
About arms race now. It's happening.
Because sometimes we have to remember that you're there for a day.
Yeah.
Or two. Mm-hmm. If you're there for 3,
or later in the holidays,
you're there for too long.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. There's 3 ways to spend time with family: 1 day, 2 day, or too long. Thank you. Getting good advice here today.
And I think you just gotta figure that out for yourself, because you're gonna go back, and those relationships those are the only memories. You're not gonna see your parents after you leave high school. After you leave the house, you only see your family another few dozen times.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Sure. It's drastically different. Mm-hmm. So I think I've chilled out when it comes to it over the years, but I have called family members racist.
Oh, nice. And at the dinner table?
At the table.
Or in the group chat?
Never at dessert.
Okay, yeah. Because
dessert is over. Because that's my time. I love dessert. Yeah. I'm not trying to mess with that.
Oh, Lord. And I love a good nap after any holiday dinner.
But
football's on the TV.
Oh, yeah.
Put on a movie.
I think do what makes you feel good, but remember every conversation has consequences. And so if you go hard, that will have lingering effects. If you do nothing at all, it actually tends to be better, and then you could just go make fun of people later. Also, making fun of people is also great. If you can tease them without them knowing that you're making fun of them, chef's kiss.
Right. And that's why I'm inviting Clay Higgins to my Thanksgiving dinner. Let's break bread, buddy.
Oh, my God.
I just want to know if he knew what he was voting for.
Yeah, and you know what? If
I didn't know. My button wasn't working. If it was a voice vote, I would have done it. Because everyone else was doing it. But I had my button. I didn't know.
I didn't look at my email that morning.
Right. Or any of the emails.
If Auntie Megyn Kelly came to dinner, 100% I would ask her to define what age is too young.
So ridiculous.
What do you say barely legal? What is barely? Is it 18? Is it 17? What state? Is it state specific?
Oh my gosh.
That's how I would do it.
Yeah. Well, luckily.
Also, here's one last thing.
Okay.
Here's a challenge. What are things you can get your family to agree on?
Yeah.
What are crazy
That's why we chose this leftovers. I mean, pedophiles, bad.
Sure, but
global arms race, bad. Feeding the world, good.
Good. Should we feed the world? No, that's actually very divisive.
We'll find it, but that's what I'm saying. A Christian, like my Aunt Terry, would say, "Oh, that's nice."
No.
Well, you're not talking about my Aunt Terry specifically. Hold on. Now I'm on Aunt Terry's side. Anyway, I'm very excited for the holidays. Buckle up, everybody.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And we're thankful to all of you. We're thankful to all the nice comments.
Yes, we'll focus on what we're thankful on.
Yeah.
This is a good weekend to just be grateful for whatever. For sure. Anything.
And I'm thankful for you, Travis.
I'm thankful for you.
And this has been a really fun experience. I love talking about this stuff every week with you. And
it is nice because we do this here. We don't have to do it at family dinner.
Yeah, that's true. I am too tired to do it at family dinner. All right. Sign up for the Foreign Report Show newsletter at foreignreportshow.com, the Foreign Report LPN at gmail.com. That is our Jeffrey Epstein back channel.
If you want to make a peace deal with Mongolia, we got you covered.
Next year, what is the capital of Mongolia?
I know a guy. Just don't even bother right now.
I don't even know what that is. Well, we're going to do
Mongolia City.
We're doing the Funny Bone Mongolia in 2026.
Very excited. Our agent, Jeffrey Epstein, set it all up. He back-channeled to get us booked.
My manager, Ehud Barak, needs his fee.
He's a great guy.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Happy holidays.